What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Hey, Zachary, what up? All right, let's get into it. So, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Not just Avatar, obviously. Just going into the meat of the issue. I think like Avatar is going to be the start of this topic, and then I think it's going to branch off to the root of what the big problems are. Just in general, just from what we've known, what we've seen, and I think now we're finally starting to hit it. And I find it funny because Terrell and I had watched we had watched Yu Yu Hakusho's live action not that long ago when we had that discussion about Yu Yu Hakusho's live action. What's up, Navy?
Not the Navy!
So I find it funny that we're back here doing the exact same thing, and it's starting to become a repeating pattern. Mostly with just Netflix. It's like we're running into these exact same issues over and over and over again. I don't know how I feel about this. So, yeah, between this and just like hell, we're even getting. I know this is slightly unrelated, but it kind of is. Between this and the Gen 5 remake rumor thing going on, man, and even the Sparking Zero trailer recently not being as like. Not being underwhelming. I'm definitely feeling it. I'm definitely starting to feel like we're starting in the media department. We're starting to get like petered out mediocre versions of the past brought back to us, and like a desperate attempt to revive an era. Whole lot of mid in the air. Exactly. Yeah, that's the problem. And honestly, like we gotta address it. That's why we're here. We gotta address it. So for those of you all who don't know, or at least are out of the loop for what's been going on when it comes to just when it goes on to like what's happening as far as the Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, obviously, we all know the history of Avatar: The Last Airbender in most senses. You got the original cartoon, which was a great story, really well received, really well beloved amongst fans. And then you had Legend of Korra, which most people were like, well, at first, no, let's take that back. At first, people were liking Legend of Korra for a while, and then I think after a certain point, people started getting turned off by Legend of Korra. And I'll even admit it, for as many jokes as I made about Legend of Korra myself, I don't think it's the fact that Legend of Korra was that bad. I think the problem was that Legend of Korra was trying too hard to run a hot off the heels of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and there was no way it was going to follow up on that and claim that audience. Like, Avatar: The Last Airbender ended in a way that kind of like soothed everybody out. Legend of Korra can't really remake any of that, and it can't really like gain that same audience. So even at Legend of Korra's best, it was okay. At worst, it was subpar to mediocre. And that's not even Legend of Korra's fault. That's unfortunately Avatar: The Last Airbender cartoon's fault. But after that, we got the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think M. Night Shyamalan made that one. Yeah, we got the movie. And that movie was extremely terribly received. It was bad on all fronts. And then for the longest time, Netflix was announcing that they were going to take their shot at Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, it was another live action. And I don't know why they keep picking this series specifically, but it's another live action, and I had already sort of like threw my hands up in the air and gave up hope on that. That was something that I already put into view long ago without even making an attempt to try to have faith in at all. And that wasn't even me being pessimistic. That was me looking literally at what we just got from live action Avatar and going, okay, this already failed. Like, when you get hit once, you don't want to get hit again. And to me, most of the people here know how I feel about live actions anyway. I feel like if it had to be live action, it doesn't need to really exist because an animated version of it can do better. And that's not even to insult the actors or the staff or people who work hard in order to create these things. It's just that with animation, you just get things that you don't really you can't really capture in live action. Now, there are some animes that got adapted into live action that it's practically harmless to do it because it's so closely related to reality that it can be either or. Case in point, Rurouni Kenshin was a really good live action because there's not really much you can do about a samurai. It's a samurai. A samurai is about as close to reality as we can get. The only thing that you can't recreate is like the goofy faces that Kenshin did. That's really it. Or like the over-exaggerated faces that the characters did. Outside of that, or like the chibis, you can't recreate that, obviously. But for the most part, like, there were some, unless it's Speed Racer and Scooby-Doo. Yeah, and those were so wacky that they could afford to be that. Like, those Scooby-Doo and Speed Racer are so wacky, there's no real way to obstruct that. Avatar The Last Airbender had wacky moments, but was an overall serious cartoon, like, that told a very strong story. But it had its fun and wacky moments to break up the tension, but they were like in between. They were used sparingly. They were used intelligently. Now, what does that have to do with today? Well, again, I paid live action Avatar The Last Airbender no real response all the way up until I started hearing more news about it. Now, again, whenever I saw this, I rolled my eyes and just sort of moved on. Didn't really care. But then I started looking at news for it, and I was just sort of like, oh, interesting. But not even interesting in like a good, like, ooh, I'm getting in there. What's up, decent cup of coffee? It was like a interesting as in, see? Look at this shit. This is exactly what I was talking about. So, let's go into what we saw in an article. It was like, to make Avatar The Last Airbender a serialized drama, Aang will not go on many detours looking for adventures like riding the elephant koi. We essentially give him this vision of what's going to happen, and he says, I have to get to the Northern Water Tribe to stop this from happening. So essentially, he's skipping a lot of like the fun moments and the side adventures and even debatably the filler episodes to like get straight to the meat of the plot. And the problem with that is that that's where we got most of our character from. And it's very clear the Netflix series is trying to cut to the meat while assassinating character development along the way. Because all of those moments in Avatar The Last Airbender, there technically isn't really filler in Avatar The Last Airbender. There are detours that can be noted as filler, but for the most part, Avatar The Last Airbender needed every episode it had to help develop the characters that we see. We get to see Sokka deal with like certain things and how to treat his sister and their relationship. We get to see Aang and how he deals with like the fact that he is the Avatar and he's come back to a world that's so distant from his own. 100 years have passed. Like all of these things, every moment that we spent with them was a moment that was well like copilated in book 1, which was the water book, to help us fully realize exactly who these characters are. They were necessary. When Aang, Katara, and Sokka were doing like nonsense in their half of the episode, then that obviously meant that when we cut to Zuko's half, Zuko was dealing with more pressing matters, getting closer to Aang and the others, having an obsession with catching the Avatar, dealing with General Zhao. Like, all of those things were necessary because it helped us absorb the story. When we finally came together and came to a resolution, these characters were fully realized, not just for the climactic moments, but for everything that built up to said climactic moments. So taking out things like Aang doing the adventures around the world, you got to remember, Aang, 100 years had passed, but Aang was still a boy. Like, Aang was still a boy at that point. And what does the Zoro Samurai say? Sex isn't bad, even for character development. Reluctant hero cannot be reluctant, and we need to appeal to Game of Thrones audience. This show is beyond cooked. It's cremated. From all we know, Toph won't be blind. Oh my goodness, yeah. No, Toph will probably be blind and a bunch of other stuff for inclusion. Mostly for inclusion. But I wouldn't be surprised if they skip Katara getting like lightly dating Jet. They might skip that. Knowing this series, they'll probably skip Zuko's whole bossing say thing. I feel like what they're trying to do is capture the epic moments of Avatar The Last Airbender while not getting to the buildup of them. And that's what a lot of live actions do. And live actions do this because they know realistically people can't move in this fashion. People can't succumb to these changes gradually and it work out like a series unless all the characters are working in unison tangent in order for it to happen. But for example, you got your biggest problem right here. Aang, as well as I guess some of the other cast, they're young, which means they're going to grow. And if they're going to grow, then that means the series has to speed up. It can't be as slow as it was in the original series. And the original series, Avatar, I want to say, started in I think the entire Avatar The Last Airbender series took about 4 to 5 years to complete. To come to a conclusion. 3 to 4, I want to say 3 to 4 or 4 to 5. It took all that time to complete. That means Aang's gonna, the actor for Aang is gonna be going through puberty. He's gonna be getting older. He's got his own deals to go with. He's a kid. And as well as the others, they're going to be going through major physical changes too. So they got to make the series go in tangent with them. So they got to cut things as fast as possible to elevate the story as quickly as need to. But what you get is not equated to what you lose. You lose out on a lot of these things. Heading back to the thing about Aang, him doing those detours was also important because you got to remember, Aang was a child. Yeah, 100 years had passed and he had been frozen. But when Aang unfroze, when he thawed out, he was still a child. He still had the heart of a child, the body of a child, the mind of a child, the soul of a child. So he obviously wanted to still experience that life. And remember, you also have to remember during the episode The Storm, Aang ran away from his responsibilities to continue being a kid. He figured since 100 years had passed and he had just broke out of being encased in ice, he can enjoy his whole life. There's no pressures of being the Avatar. But that makes it hit all the more when he finally gets slammed with that information about what happens afterwards. It's necessary towards his development that he needs to want to have that boyish charm only so that the tone can get more serious and serious as it goes along. And it's the show's way of pulling us in too. The fact that Aang is so lively and bright in a world that more or less is oversieged by fire nations already it's low key. It's allowing Aang to do his job before he's even done his job. Aang is so lighthearted, so vibrant, so bright. You can even see it in the first 2 episodes when he's freed from the ice and he hangs out with everybody in the water tribe. When he's hanging out with them, you can see everybody's having fun and hanging out. But what happened prior to that? Or what happened after? The Fire Nation came over to the tribe. They started asking where the Avatar was. They were burning certain areas. They had already killed Katara's mother. They were already upset. They were already facing gloom and doom. But Aang's upbeat attitude brought their spirits up. That's the point. Aang has unknowingly done his job without even noticing it yet. And that was why it was so important, not just to the characters, but to us, the audience, that Aang is lively. Aang has to be lively and like boyish, because then that allows us to like have a calming thought about the journey. That way those serious moments hit harder when they do. The reason that that's the case is because we need to build this character up. You start Aang off serious. If you start him off serious and everybody else is already sad and serious, then the entire series becomes sad and serious. And that would work if you were making a show that was based around that. But you're making a show that literally is called Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is an adaptation of an already known series. So logically, you're going to use the exact same elements that made that series great. And sadly, if you rip the character out of the character, that ruins the show. Like, it's why The Last Airbender was such a well-received series, was because it had tiny little bits and pieces that all built up to make this large conglomerate of a series. It made this huge impact. Aang's boyish and like lively charm is what gave people hope. It's what allowed us to reflect on those characters, know who they are. What does Aang do when he shows up to the water tribe after he's unfrozen? He ends up sliding with the penguins. You can see him like sliding down the slope and like hanging out with the penguins. One, like, he gets on top of one of the penguins and starts riding it like a sled and everything. And he's like, "Can we go penguin sledding?" And like he's. It almost confuses Sokka and Katara that he's so unserious about the situation. But that's because, one, he doesn't know, and two, he wants to have that boyish charm. And again, it gives people hope. When Zuko burns the entire area and then Aang goes to fight him, everybody cheers him on because he's worth cheering on. He's happy, he's lively, he's joyous, he's upbeat. Zuko's angry and he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's the perfect counter. That's the whole point of why Zuko's brought on. Zuko has a chip on his shoulder. He's always angry. He's very solidly focused on his goal. Aang, however, is very distracted. He's very lively, bubblyish, movable, like flexible. So when the two meet each other, obviously it becomes an instant quarrel. Not just because, oh, this is Zuko trying to get the Avatar because that's what he has to do. They're an instant quarrel because they're total opposites. But if you start off making Aang serious, and then you got Zuko serious, and then you got Katara trying to be serious, and Sokka not even doing his comic relief and being serious, then you just got a whole bunch of serious people. And now I'm no longer watching characters. I'm watching the show without the characters. I'm watching a series of events. There we go. I'm no longer watching a show. I'm watching a series of events just play out with cardboard cutout people that just happen to be in there. We need the characters to have that joyous, boyish charm about them. We need Sokka to be comic relief, and we need Katara to be like a little sassy and somewhat bossy. That way, when those characters come in full circle, the development feels like good. It feels needed. It feels palpable. Like when Aang starts off, he's silly and boyish and charmish and fun. When the series ends, he's still charming, but now he's mellowed out a bit. He's calmed down, but he's also like, he's protective. He's stronger. He's wiser. Zuko becomes edgy with a chip on his shoulder and angry and straightforward. But as the series goes along, he's got one of the best developments in the entire series. He learns to let go. He learns to be forgiving. He learns to be less angry. He learns to become more apart. He learns to settle down. Sokka, his character development is the greatest. At first, he starts off as character development as a comic relief that nobody takes seriously, getting the butt end of everyone's jokes. By the end, he's admired for his humor, but it's because he causes it, and he has the smarts, wisdom, and skill to back it up now. He's earned his place. At first, he viewed the Kyoshi warriors as useless because, oh, they're a bunch of females that can't put up a fight against men. Then he humbles himself when he loses to Suki and starts respecting other characters. He respects Toph as one of the strongest earthbenders. He respects Katara, his own sister, as one of the best waterbenders. He's able to stick up and talk with other characters and become better. He dates literally the strongest female warrior in the entire series, and they fight as equals. But you can only appreciate that when you get the first part. You can't get the humble character without the downfall. You can't get the best character without being the worst. You got to see how they start off in order to get to where they are now, to appreciate it. You can't skip any of that. If you skip it, it ruins it. And that's me tackling Azor Samurai's comment of the sexism is bad even for character development. No, and I know Samurai, you were talking, you were quoting them, not you quoting it yourself. But unfortunately, that's not like that quote. The quote you're using, personally, not even personally, I know is incorrect. Sokka needed to be that type of arrogant character because he needed that development. And I've always said this. Fictional characters are within fiction, and they don't have to be likable. But when they go through development, that's what makes them interesting. Sokka's character was interesting because of his flaws. But if you take his flaws away, then he's not a character. He's a person. He's just some person. Why should I care about this person? Literally in that exact same episode, Sokka humbles himself. And we tackled this issue again when they made it to the Northern Water Tribe. When, I can't remember his name right now, but the master who taught them waterbending there would not teach Katara because she was a female. They did that already. And he already got humbled as well. It was the exact same thing. They taught the lesson twice, but they did it on two different forms. The first one was Sokka, a younger character. They made sure to do this specifically towards the beginning too, because they had a young character act like that and quickly become humble as the series goes forward. That way the young character learns before it's too late. Then you cut to Katara and Aang's teacher in the Northern Water Tribe. He learns the lesson, but much, much later. And remember, Katara's grandmother was supposed to be married to that guy. Hence the necklace that Katara has. No, that necklace belongs to her mother. I'm sorry. But she said there was one just like it, though. And I believe the mother passed it down to her mom, and thus Katara has it. Anyway, the point is, he was supposed to marry Katara's grandmother, but they didn't get married because he was being sexist towards the fact that he wouldn't teach women waterbending. And it's because of that mindset that he lost his chance to marry Katara's grandmother. She left. He already suffered for those views. He lost out on that chance. He suffered the greatest for it. They have a young character, Sokka, and an old character, the waterbending trainer. They learned the same lesson, but one learned it early enough to prevent it from ruining him. Oh, and woe and behold, he gets with Suki. One of them learned, the older character, however, learns it too late and loses the chance to be married to the person that he loves. They both learned the same lesson, but it was different characters in different eras. Can crystals be earthbended? Yes, they are earth. But yeah, they both learned the exact same lesson. They just learned it as different characters, and thus different things happened for them. They learned it in different outcomes. Now, the waterbending trainer is teaching Aang and Katara waterbending as a way to repent for his lesson for what he did before, whereas Sokka already suffered at an early age and learned before. So if you're depriving us from that lesson, then you lose out on the entire series. You lose out on all of it. You lose all of that in general only because we need that part because it's crucial to character development. It's not bad. It's humbling, and it allows us to learn those lessons. And the best part about that lesson is that it was never hammered in our face that we had to learn it. It was already subtle, and it was working gradually and cumulatively through the story. There was never a point where we had to be jammed that lesson down. Katara gets mad and chooses to fight him. Aang says, yo, if you won't teach Katara, then I won't learn from you either. So we already had characters respecting. It wasn't like it was against the norm and that character was right for the way that they were viewing things. Multiple people viewed that these mindsets were incorrect. It's not until it got flipped that he was finally able to realize that. But again, you lose out on all of that if you exclude it. I'm not sure exactly why they feel like they need to rip these things out. I'm guessing it's because, again, it saves time or they want to make a message. But trying to have the series implement these things and gain the rewards of being Avatar: The Last Airbender without going through the work is frankly injustice. There's a reason why Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the most well-beloved animated series basically on the planet, but it had to earn that. And it didn't earn it by cutting corners with character development. It didn't earn it by exiting valuable lessons that the characters and the audience need to learn. It didn't earn that by, oh, we're just gonna put in the bare minimum effort and that'll do it for now. And again, that sucks because I don't want to say that about these actors. Actors work hard. I'm not gonna pin them down. Whenever I judge a live action, no matter how good or bad it is, the actors aren't at fault. They are simply taking a job and doing what they're supposed to do with that job. They see a script, they see a role, they act, they perform. That's where their relationship to this ends. They can be passionate about it, and obviously they were if they got chosen to pick these roles, but it's not really the fault of them. It's usually the fault of the writers themselves, thinking that they can cut corners. Thinking that they can go straight to the meat of things and the heart of nostalgia and believe that'll do it. That's all the effort that we need. We don't need to put in any access effort because people remember this. And they're relying on that group too. They're relying on that group of people to get the benefit of that. And it also isn't just the fault of the writers either. I would also blame the audience itself, sadly. And I know that doesn't sound right. But sadly, it has to be that way because an audience, when we see it, changes so much along the times. There's an audience that's never seen Avatar: The Last Airbender that's going to watch this and think, oh, this is the definitive version of Avatar: The Last Airbender, knowing damn well there's a much better version that exists. And sadly, because of this version, no matter what you put out, it's always going to have some form of influence. No matter what you do, any form of influence that you make is usually based on what you're willing to put out. Like, when you put something out, whether people watch it or people don't watch it, there's going to be someone that gains some level of influence to it or has some knowledge of it. And ignorant minds soak up the most nonsense. That's the sad part. The reason I say that is because when people watch this live action that have never seen the animated series, they're going to go about thinking that this is what Avatar's face is. And we've seen this not just with TV shows and movies. We've even seen this amongst video games. It's just like when Sonic Colors Ultimate came out, right? Sonic Colors Ultimate came out, and once people started playing it, it was a bad port, and everybody kept going, well, Sonic Colors Ultimate was bad anyway. It was always bad. No. Sonic Colors wasn't always bad. Sonic Colors was actually a really well-received game. This version of it is so bad that it ruined the name. And you got to remember, when you decide, oh, we're going to take a series or a movie or an adaptation or something, you got to realize whenever you take those things, you're carrying the legacy of that. And you have the ability to tarnish it or make it better. And sadly, more times than not, you can't make it better because got to that status by not being seen before. Whenever you try to remake or do something over again, you always run the risk of like walking on a weird tightrope that has already been walked. And you can't recreate those moments like that. Not really. If you try to recreate a moment, it's extremely hard. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I will say it's extremely hard. Extremely hard to recreate a moment. Because recreating a moment requires you to do everything that made that moment special in the first place. And I'm often hearing people tell me all the time, oh, Tyrone, why don't you just give things a chance? Why you always gotta be negative? Why you always gotta be pessimistic? Blah, 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 blah. Can't you just let people have fun? No, it's not that I don't want people to enjoy these things. Absolutely not. I always want people to enjoy things, but I also want us to realize exactly what is there and why it became that in the first place. I see so many times that all of these remakes and remasters and live actions keep getting created in a desperate attempt to try to like make something that already existed. But you ever stop and wonder, wait a minute, why is this thing so popular in the first place? What happened before this thing happened? What was there before Avatar: The Last Airbender? There was nothing. There was no series prior to this. There wasn't anything. Avatar: The Last Airbender, upon touch out, was a completely creative and new, innovative thing. It was brand new. No one had ever heard of it. No one knew what it was. Nobody knew who Aang was, Katara, Sokka, Zuko, Momo, Appa. Nobody knew these creatures and the Cabbage Man. Nobody knew these things. These are concepts that created a legacy for themselves. But lately in this era, lately in the past, I want to say 10 years, even more than 10 years, lately just in this minutia of time that we've had at this point, I've seen nothing but just let's desperately try to hit that stunt that we hit last time. And it's been pathetic every time. Every time. I've seen nothing but desperation. Oh, if we try to capture lightning in a bottle again, it'll be so cool, right? It's just like when a kid does a really cool stunt or something, and then they try to show their parents, and when they try to do it again, they keep messing up. So it's like, yeah, that's nice, dear. That's nice, honey. That's essentially what's happening now. Avatar: The Last Airbender was the flip. Everything else is just it trying to keep it going, like trying to do it over again. And I get it. When you're in Hollywood or you're in like the writing staff or the studio and you do something right the first time and you make all this money and it's bringing and selling so much merch and doing all this is a great job, you obviously want to make more. There's no mistaking that. You obviously want to capture in on more of that money because realistically, if you look at it, no matter how much it is, it's still money and money's still important. Always has been. Never gonna say that it isn't. But at a certain point, we've got to realize what works and what doesn't. And I think a lot of these studios are also too afraid of what happens if something new flops. But that's what experimentation is all about. Experimentation is throwing in a bunch of new ideas and creative things. And what doesn't work, doesn't. And what does work, sticks. That's always been the case. That'll always be the case. It's what separates what does work and what doesn't work. It's what separates the successes from the failures. It's what separates the greatest of all times from the mediocres and the blands. And everything isn't going to make it, and that's okay. That's okay. Hell, good ideas have spawned from things that didn't work out before. Yes, during the climax of book 2, we tried to capture the lightning once again. Y'all remember Korra? Not even the dude creator managed to do it. And that's exactly that's exactly why it upsets me to see things like this. And again, I already knew that I already didn't have much faith in the Netflix series at all. Like, most people were excited about it, mostly because they had a different team of writers and they were going to do some things that people preferred. But when I looked, I knew immediately. I knew immediately. I looked at it and was like, no. And that wasn't me going like, I told you so. I've always looked at like remakes and remasters and restorations. I've always looked at those things as like a whatever in my brain. Just mostly because I know that there's usually never a good time to try to make these things happen again. Sometimes you just gotta accept that not everything is going to be as good as it was when it started. And that is okay. That is okay. I'm always down for like a re-release of something. Like for example, just moving off for a second, like the Pokemon remake that's been talking about now. I don't want it. But I wouldn't mind if you port Black and White to the Switch. I think porting Black and White to the Switch would work just fine. No other changes, just port it. Just port it over. Just same exact game with a few touch-ups. Make the graphics look kind of nice, kind of look like Octopath Traveler. And then maybe add the fairy typing. Add the fairy typing in a way where it feels natural. And then after that, boom, just put it in the game. I guess you would have to... I'm trying to see which Pokemon would you have to change. No Unova Pokemon turned into fairy types, did they? I don't think any Unova Pokemon turned into fairy types except Audino, but that was a Mega Evolution. No, so you can literally, it wouldn't affect anything. Yeah, it wouldn't affect anything. Everything would be the exact same way. There would be absolutely no differences. You can add some fairy type moves in it to like switch it up. Oh shit, Whimsicott. Katini and Whimsicott, I completely forgot about them. Oh, so yeah, just add the fairy types in them and you're set. Really don't want the Gen 5 remakes. I barely sat through Unova proper. Not a huge fan. Damn. But yeah. But moving back to the main topic of what I was saying, I wouldn't mind if Avatar The Last Airbender got... I think they already have a Blu-ray collection. Just port the Blu-ray collection or have it streaming on services. Do that. If you have to do something, do that. Or do what Yu Yu Hakusho does. I wouldn't mind if there was a Avatar The Last Airbender special or movie. Do a movie, right? But animate it. Animate it. And it takes place, I don't know, 2 years after Aang defeats Ozai, right? 2 years after Aang defeats Ozai. And maybe after this happens, there's still some stragglers of the war. Or there's some people who want the war to continue because the imbalance of power helped others out. Or maybe there's somebody who wants to stop every... No, never mind. Korra did that plot already. The non-benders plot. They already did that. Or maybe there's somebody who discovered a new element. There we go. Maybe somebody is corrupted and discovered a new bending that exists. Some different element of bending, like dark bending or something crazy. But it has to be stopped. So Aang and the others have to stop it or something. And Aang befriends like a character who's good at light bending, but they don't know how to use it yet. But the Avatar helps them out, and like they learn how to do it. Like, make a movie. If you're really that desperate for an audience, make a 2 years from now movie. Yu-Gi-Oh! Did it with Dark Side of Dimensions. Make an anniversary movie. But don't do this, is what I'm saying. Yu Yu Hakusho did it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Did it. Hell, Lupin the Third does it constantly. Dragon Ball's done it a couple of times. Make an anniversary movie. If it's really that much, make an animated anniversary movie. I think that should be the route that they should go. I guarantee you that would be so much better. I feel like that idea would do way more. Honestly, I'd prefer a series of OVAs or specials covering the time between Avatar: The Last Airbender and Korra and the comic stuff. What did Katara do after Aang passed away? Where the fuck is Sokka? Yeah, but I wouldn't mind it. Like, do it 2 years, have the main cast age up by 2 years, which means they'd all be about what? Young adults? Yeah, they were all kids when they ended this. So yeah, make them like young adults, and then you could have like some dark benders and dark benders have the ability to like take control of the other bendings and bring them back to the opponent twice as strong or something. Or maybe they have the ability to control like this energy, but it's dark, and when it hurts you, it does like continuous damage or something. While light bending restores people or something. Like, I feel, that would be such a cool, like call it Avatar The Last Airbender, yin and yang or something. Like, I don't know, I feel like there's more potential in that. But we can't keep going down this route and then looking surprised when it doesn't meet expectations. And the writers, from what I see, were also trying to make this seem more like Game of Thrones, which, look, we get it. Game of Thrones was successful for its time. But again, that goes into what I said before. The reason that Game of Thrones was so successful is because, it came from an original book. It came from a book that was original. It came from a book. And yes, obviously it was an adaptation, but it got popularized via the bringing up a book adaptation to a series, although unfortunately its ending kind of was bad. But still, the point being is that if you really so desperately want that type of Game of Thrones audience, then make an original series that follows that pattern, that follows some of those things. You can be inspired by an idea and not have to copy it. You can gain inspiration from an idea, but not copy it. That's always been the case. Gaining inspiration from an idea is how most stories happen. It's how pretty much all fictional stories happen. All fiction comes from a level of inspiration from something. What about the corrupt politicians trying to pass anti-bending laws during the peace times? Yeah, wasn't that Korra's plot? Yeah, that was Korra's plot. Yeah, but my point is, my ultimate point is, in a world that you have here, you have so much potential, and yet they keep choosing to fall back on what's safe. And that's always been the biggest problem, is that when you lean back on what's safe, you ruin yourself by default, because you're trying your hardest to recreate something because it feels right. Oh, this is going to feel correct. Oh, this is going to be the thing that definitely saves us because it captured so many audience members coming in. And it's like, when you do that, yeah, congratulations. You did the thing that got people's attention, but how are you going to maintain it? What are you going to do in order to get people to appreciate it? And you've got a lot to do in order to make sure that people appreciate it, because again, this isn't just any series that you're trying to adapt. This is Avatar The Last Airbender you're trying to adapt. That's a whole... There's so much to this story that I know full well a Netflix series is not going to be able to do properly. And we can see here, and I'm actually going to read this. It's from IGN's Nordic. I'm going to read some of these things just to see what we're dealing with. So, like, for example, nailing down the characters. I feel like so much about that balance between silly and serious falls on Aang in particular. It's a heavy weight for Gordon Comer to carry. So, look, they're saying that as a justification for why this is happening. And the problem is that doesn't have to be a lot of weight. This is first of all, that whole sentence is flawed. It's flawed because you're saying, oh, one writer can't do what literally another team of writers did. It's so hard for this person. It's so hard for them to write a character the exact same way as you already have the template. That's the worst part. That's the worst part. You already have a template to work from. That would be like me saying, hey, can I copy off your test? And someone went, yeah. And then I started copying them. What's wrong? How do you solve all of these like this? It's too hard to write exactly what you're writing. You you're doing none of the work. To say it's hard would be like I said, I'm trying to copy your test and then I just go, filling out your answers is hard. What? Filling out your, bro, there's already someone writing your shit. I feel like much of the balance between silly and seriousness falls on Aang in particular. It's a heavy weight for Gordon Cormier to carry.
What?
What was it about him that made you feel like you could take on a huge role? Let's see. AK says, we always knew casting this show was going to be probably the biggest challenge of them all because you're asking a hell of a lot from very young performers. It's almost like it would have been better if they were, I don't know, fucking animated? Maybe they should have been animated? Think that would have helped? I think that would have helped. And I always knew that we wanted it to be age appropriate in our casting. We did not want to cast a 20-year-old to play a 12-year-old. Well, thank God there. We needed a 12-year-old to play a 12-year-old. And so that was a tall order when it came to casting. But it was one of those things where sometimes lightning just strikes. You see someone and you realize they somehow capture the essence of a character. That's what I was like when I first saw Gordon. He just seemed like Aang. Here's other challenging thing is the project was so top secret that when we did the auditions, we couldn't let anyone know it was for Avatar. Well, then how the fuck are they supposed to audition for something if they don't know what the fuck it is? What? Oh, it must be so hard creating a series based off existing material instead of making something original. How do you audition somebody and not give them a clue what they're auditioning for and then go, that's it. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody to act like somebody. Do something that somebody that I'm thinking in my head will do. I don't know who you want me to be. Perfect! That's the person we're looking for! Like, what the fuck? That doesn't even make sense! That doesn't even make sense! What? Like, oh God. So I had to write up a whole bunch of fake casting slides.
Emotional damage.
Okay. So every actor was acting a completely different story. And Gordon had no idea this was the Avatar. So how the fuck do you know he's doing it right? So he was acting as some character named Alan. Oh, God. In a show about mathematics or something. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the hell? Oh my, this is how they cast it for the show? Oh, I can't even remember what those scenes were. Alan in a show about, I can't even remember what those scenes were about. Okay.
Jesus Christ.
So let me see if I broke this down correctly. Let me see if I absorbed this correct. So in a show, in a Netflix adaptation of a show that already has a story and a script, you had to audition actors to play roles that you didn't want them to know they were playing, so you made up a fake script that you yourself, a fake story plot to scripts that you don't remember at all, so that you can find the perfect cast for a story that already has a story? I can't. How do you, how the... Oh, it hurts. Oh, it hurts. Oh, it hurts. What the fuck? Oh, God. How do you deal with this level of stupidity? I can't. I can't. We saw in him something that was kind of an essential version of Aang. But you made him serious any fucking way! My head hurts, bro. My head hurts, bro. My head hurts, bro. Brother. And we kept coming back to him. We saw a lot of other actors as well, but after every round of auditions, we were asking ourselves, what about Gordon? I mean, they're not as good as Gordon. Can we go back? That's kind of mean to say about everybody else, but whatever. And so that was the process we went through for basically all the roles. My God in heaven. That means they did everybody like this. Was Aang the hardest to cast? I would say so, just because of the age and because of the amount of work that they were going to do. It was a challenging one. And we ended up looking at actors who were a bit younger than 12 and a little bit older than 12. So we had a little bit of buffer there. There was a huge difference in some kids from 10 to 15. It's very different versions of Aang if you had a 15-year-old Aang as opposed to a 10-year-old Aang. So again, Gordon just nailed that sweet spot. He was really 12 when we cast him, and he's playing a 12-year-old. Oh, Jesus Christ. And I feel like when you watch the show in live action, it somehow hits harder that they're kids. They're 12 or 15 years old. Did you ever worry about it getting too dark? I don't know if that was ever an explicit conversation. So you didn't even think about the basics? Oh my God. What the hell? So, wait a minute. Wait, hold up.
Stop right there, criminal scum.
In a show that already has a story that's well established to be a mix of peacefulness, whimsy, silliness, but has large and very serious over and undertones in it for majority of the series. Let's break down the serious stuff that happens in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Aang finds out that everybody he's ever had a life around him died 100 years ago, and didn't even die 100 years ago. They died when the Fire Nation essentially raided them and killed every last person in Aang's family. Aang finds out that he's a young boy, but he awakes to 100 years passing. Zuko has to find this kid and bring him to the Fire Nation because he himself got banished from his own nation for speaking against his father, and his own father burned him in the eye. One of the supporting cast's mother dies when being raided by these soldiers. Not even to mention there's an entire next season that involves an entire group being completely brainwashed into believing that there is no war beyond the area that they're in, so that they can maintain a fake level of peace, so that you can uphold a fake monarchy and pretty much enslave everybody in what's known as a pacifist-based utopia that's fake. There is a girl who is being threatened to be kidnapped because she's blind and a powerful earthbender, but is also under the care of royalty and is constantly being chased by people so that she can be headed back over there. And to top all of that off, once a comet runs by, it's literally going to cause basically Armageddon, and an entire army of people are going to burn down every country to the ground so that they can have a hostile takeover of every land that exists. And at no point did you think between, oh, that's not even to get me started on one of the characters who was a fighter for the people and fighting against the soldiers, only to wind up getting completely killed by one of the people who was trying to uphold the fake monarchy. And at no point during any of that, and we're not even going to talk about the fucking psychopath sister of Zuko, who only became that way because her mother basically disowned her and saw a monster inside of her preemptively. And at no point during all of that, you thought to yourself, this could get kind of serious! At no point did you think that. They ask a simple question when watching the show, or when you watch the show in live action. Is it somehow hits you? Oh, sorry. Did you ever worry about it getting too dark? I don't know if that was ever an explicit conversation. You never talked about that. Ever. You didn't talk about it at all. The fact that a 12-year-old boy is going to have to kill a man at some point, that was never a point of conversation to you. Too dark. You never thought about that. At no point did you... Bruh. You didn't think about that at all? With Netflix, it was kind of the thing that we went by feel as we went through it. Went by feel? You have a template, an already made template, and you were just like, we're running by here, fuck it. Because again, the story itself has some mature themes throughout. The entire show kicks off with a genocide. Again, not really typical Nickelodeon fare, right? Oh, really? Really?
Bruh.
But we're going one step further. We're actually going to show it as opposed to talk about it in the original series. So we kind of trust both in performers and in also the audience, frankly, that they could handle this kind of material, even at a young age. So it was just a matter of being true to the story. But you just said that Aang wasn't going to be that serious. And you decided to throw that in after the fact. Oh, we're going to show the genocide. Yeah, there we go. We'll show the genocide. We're going to kick it off. We're going to show all of that. People will be all right. And then later we would just sort of turn the dial a little bit down here and there. Like Jobber said, we had different versions of a lot of scenes. And then after we watched it all cut together, we'd say, well, maybe we should dial back a little there. Maybe we have the room to go further here. So it was about feeling our way through the process. That's what I meant by saying that there was mature themes and storylines throughout. But there's a way to play it so that it doesn't necessarily have to be that graphic in its depiction. And so the thing we were always kind of watching out for. What? Okay, let's just keep going. I want to talk a little bit about Azula. You know, my favorite character in the fucking show. Who is a character that am kind of surprised to see as much as we have in the trailers and first look images, because she's not in a lot of season 1. She wasn't fucking in season 1. She's in season 2. She's a reveal for season 2. And she makes her appearance in season 2. And the reason that they did... I ain't
gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
Dude, let me break down why she's introduced in season 2. It's important. The reason she's introduced in season 2 is because her appearance is supposed to raise the stakes. She shows up at the end of season 1, the butt end, but kicks off season 2. They did that on purpose. They kept her on the down low. Why? Because Zuko was chasing Aang for the most part. Zuko was chasing Aang the whole way through. He was constantly a thorn in Aang's side. Whenever the others would travel, Zuko would be following right after, trying to kill the Avatar and capture him and do all of this. He was a problem. At the end of season 1, Aang saves everybody, and Zuko beats Zhao. And when all of that's said and done, when all of that is taken care of, Zuko has no choice but to leave. He has to retreat. But who winds up being left over? They make it very known at the end of season 2, at the end of season 1. Your Zhao's failed, the Fire Nation's fallen. You're my next hope. Go ahead. And Azula goes, I will, father. And then once she does that, you're thinking, who is this? Wait a minute. We thought that Zuko was chasing Aang by himself. But then when Azula shows up, it's supposed to be like a who's this woman? Who is she? Why is Ozai specifically picking her to do this? It basically is like, okay, Zuko was a threat, but this is a bigger threat. The next season's gonna be wild. It raises the stakes. She's not supposed to appear in season 1 because her whole presence relies on her showing up in season 2. She needs to show up in season 2 to raise season 2's stakes. It uplifts it. It makes it stronger. Because when she shows up in season 2, she's so strong that Zuko and Aang have to work together to beat her. They have to put aside their differences because she's that dangerous. You ruin all of that by making her show up early. Yeah, so Azula is one who, in the animated series, you don't really see until season 2. Yeah, because he doesn't fucking show up in season 1! Fire Lord Ozai is also one who doesn't appear much in season 1 because he's the main fucking villain. If he shows up every time, it would dilute him. But we made the conscious decision to bring some of those Fire Nation storylines more to the fore in first season because I felt we needed to balance out the stories. You don't need to fucking do that! You want to know who was doing that? Who was a Fire Nation character that was already giving us a perspective of what the villain's life is like in season 1? Oh, chat, can you help me out, chat? Who in the Fire Nation, who in season 1 had an entire subplot that was going along so that we can see what the villains are going through while the heroes were on their downtime? Who could possibly have done that? Can't think of it. This is a Tuesday. Which character? What villain character was what villain could have possibly had a subplot that focused on the Fire Nation half of the story to give some build up and give some dimension while the heroes were doing hero things. What was his name? Oh yeah, I think I know. Was it Zuko? It was Zuko! It was fucking Zuko! He was having an entire... Every episode had his subplots. When Aang and the others were trying to figure out what to do for the plot of the episode, we cut to Zuko and him dealing with it so that a passage of time can take place. And we saw him training, but he was training too aggressively with his comrades. And then one of the comrades goes, Zuko's too hard on us. And Iroh explains why... Iroh explains why Zuko has the scar on his face and why he trains so hard anyway. And then they cut back to Aang's group. Or they would go and they would have a situation where Aang and the others were trying to bring, others together, or Aang was doing some tricks, and then Zuko would chase after the Avatar and notice something, and that would press him to chase harder, but Iroh told him to calm down and get some rest, or, like, we cut to them every fucking time. It was almost every episode. Zuko almost made an appearance in pretty much every episode in season 1 to give us a perspective of what the villains go through. So, the fuck? Like, you want to know why they didn't bring Ozai and Azula into season 1? Because if you bring Ozai and Azula into season 1, then you fuck up Zuko's character. We need to feel for Zuko. All that time was necessary for his development. You throw Azula in there, and you already have somebody stronger and more capable chasing Aang, while Zuko's supposed to be doing that. You throw in Ozai, and Ozai messes up the entire balance of the show. Ozai was saved for last, and there was a reason for that. He made the big shot calls. He was the one to be feared. You don't blow your entire giant villain load in season fucking 1. Every time the Avatar and the others did shit, the stakes were getting higher. In season 1, the main villain was Zuko. Not as strong as the others, but he was learning just like they were. He was growing as they were growing. That's why he gained all that development and that screen time along with them. While they were traveling, he was traveling. While they were learning, he was learning. When season 2 shows up, the stakes are raised. Zuko's weaker news now. Azula is the biggest problem. Notice how Zuko showed up less and less and less and less in season 2. When it came to Aang and the others. Zuko still showed up a lot in season 2, but he was never in front of Aang, Katara, Sokka, or Toph. He was never with them. He never fought them as much. He fought a little bit in the beginning of season 2, but we started seeing him less and less in favor of Azula. Why? Because Azula was doing Zuko's job better than him. By book 3, Book Fire, Ozai is the main threat. Because he's stronger than Azula. He's more capable. He's the Fire Lord. The Phoenix God. You don't blow the fucking main villain in part 1. Ugh. Jesus Christ. Jesus fucking Christmas. Oh my God. But we made our conscious decision to bring those stories more and forward with the first season because I feel like we needed to balance out the stories. We needed to know more about the background for Zuko. They already have episodes where they do that! And why he was doing what he was doing and set that in the context of his family dynamic. They already fucking did it! The episode is called The Storm. If you need a title for it. The episode is called The Storm. It's a very important episode. It's an episode where Aang is traveling through a storm and Zuko is also traveling through a storm. They're both traveling. Zuko makes all the men on the boat go through the storm even though they might die to chase Aang. And Aang is going out of his way to go through the storm to get away from some shit that he has to do. And we cut to Aang's flashback and it's him doing the exact same thing but 100 years ago when he learned that he was the Avatar and he ran away from his responsibilities. Meanwhile, we saw Zuko and Zuko and Iroh explains to one of the soldiers why Zuko's doing all of this, and they cut back to Zuko's past and before he had the scar on his face, and he tells his father, yo, I don't think it's a good idea for us to be sacrificing the front line of soldiers like this because those are innocent people. And when he speaks against them, they start an Agni Kai and he gets burned in the fucking face. But once they realize that and they talk to Zuko about it, Zuko gets humble and decides to retreat from the storm. He abandons chasing the Avatar because he realized, oh shit, I'm about to get all my men killed just like I fought against in the first fucking place. And that's what got me in this in the first fucking place. So I need to get my men out of here or else they're gonna die just like what I didn't want to happen last time. And then then Iroh explains that, oh, his character is becoming, like, good again. And then Aang is in the storm, and he's like, I can't be running away anymore. I gotta go back and take responsibility for these things. And both characters grow! They grow! Damn it! We know that! That's the family dynamic! And we get tons of that in season 2! And how he fits in with his father and sister. He's outcasted! How he fits in? How does Zuko fit in? How does Zuko fit in with his father and sister? I wish there was something on Zuko that could let us know how he fits in. I wish there was something on him that I don't know, gave us a clue of whether he's accepted or outcasted. Is there something on Zuko, possibly on his facial region, that could let us know how he fits in with his father and his sister in terms of how they view him? I wonder where that is. Oh, I know. I figured it out. I cracked the code, guys. It's on his fucking eye! He got burned and then outcasted. Are you serious? Did you watch the show? It's kind of required. How does he fit in? He got burned and kicked the fuck out. You can see it on his fucking face. How do you fuck up this badly? Oh my God. Oh, and that's something that they get to later in the series, of the animated series, but we had a little bit of a benefit in hindsight. We knew where that was going, so we could pull some of those elements up front into the first season, and make the first season a little bit richer and a little bit deeper in terms of character storylines.
What?
So, okay. So let me get this straight. Let me see if I broke this down correctly. You thought. Let me see if I got this correct. You thought. Seriously, you thought this. You thought that rushing character development would be the key. The ultimate key. You thought rushing character development would be the key to enhancing character development and making the season richer. You felt, for some odd reason, that making a character's development fast forward for no fucking reason, then, oh, it took too long. Honestly, I don't know if the writers of the animated series have seen or known about this. If I was a writer of Avatar, the animated series, and I saw any of this, I'd be fucking pissed. I'd be livid. My blood would boil to a point where I would explode. I would explode. Because what? You thought, and your conscious heart of hearts, you somehow believed, fully and truly believed, and your soul you believed this. You were under the 100% mindset that if we bring all of this character development that was in later seasons to this season, it would fix the season. That's the reason why the Avatar original writers left the live action series, because creative differences with Netflix. So you truly, 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 truly believed that skipping a bunch of the characters' world building. You felt so you sacrificed world building for sped up character development and thought that would be okay. For the characters in the world to be engaging We need the world! We need the world! You need the world! You can't shave the world out, force character development in there and go, yep, we did it. That's a masterpiece. That's not gonna work. You can't shove a square peg into a round hole, then start cutting the peg into a round shape, and then put it in there and go, perfect. That's not going to fucking work. What on earth made you believe that that would work? I'm going to keep reading this. So I think that in the animated series, a lot of that was figured out as they went along. And then they got to season 2 and 3, and they were able to get more into the backstory and stuff. We wanted to make sure that Zuko felt like a much more dimensionalized character. I quit. No, fuck this. Fuck this. Fuck this. Fucking piece of shit. I'm sorry, guys. I guess I had like a blackout moment. I thought I was reading something. Maybe I fucked up. I think maybe I read something too wrong here. Maybe I'm tripping. I don't think I read that right? I'm going to read the paragraph again. I clearly read it wrong. I apologize to y'all. I need to make sure that I'm reading exactly what's on the page rather than what I'm making up. Right? Because that has to be it. So I think in the animated series, a lot of that was figured out as they went along. And then, they got to season 2 and season 3, and they were able to go more into the backstory and stuff. We wanted to make sure that Zuko felt like a more dimensionalized character. Okay, so I am reading that. I'm reading what they wrote down. A more dimensionalized character. Vegeta, Zuko, Piccolo, to a degree. Where do I start? Oh my god. I'm naming Bakugo in some situations. I'm naming characters who have had the most elongated, rich, developed trial of character growth in animated history. And they felt like they wanted to make Zuko a more dimensionalized character. Zuko. Zoo-fucking-ko. They felt like he needed to be a more dimensionalized character. And that meant bringing in more elements of his family into the storyline. So that naturally meant feeling like we should see a little more Azula and a little more Ozai. If anything, Azula's story in the first season is a little bit of a prequel to her story in the second and third seasons. But that's another element we thought we should see rather than just talk about. I don't care what Azula was in the first season. In fact, like, I don't need a prequel to that. Her appearance is already dangerous enough. The best part about Azula is that we don't even get to see any, like, real flashbacks of her, except when it's mostly retaining Nezuko. And and they only showed one, and it was when they were both kids. And it's literally Azula bullying Zuko. And that's it. That's all we get. There's an episode in season 3 in Book Fire called The Beach. And it's literally just Zuko, Ty Lee, Mai, and Azula. All 4 of them. They're hanging out, and they end up at a beach talking about their feelings and their lives. And they all talk about how their upbringing, right? Azula does not say much about her backstory. Everybody else gets on her, and she goes, "Me? No. My mother said I'm a monster." She was right. It still hurt, though. Like, but the reason that's so perfect, is because the less we know about Azula's childhood was the better. There's some characters where if you give too much away, they lose what makes them terrifying. Azula wasn't meant to be relatable. She was meant to be an obstacle. We only feel sympathetic for her at the very butt end, but that's because she's ironically becoming less like a monster and more human. But by that point, she's cracked. It's too late. That's why Zuko looks at her a little, like, upset when the fight's over. He feels bad for her because he knows it could have been different. He's taking a look at what he could have been. It's a bad reflection. She's not meant to be relatable. She's meant to be a threat. Azula is a psycho, but she's layered. Yeah, she's not meant, like, if you, Azula, that was the best part about Azula. You never know what she was going to do next. She always was one step ahead of the game, one step ahead. She always was above everything else. We don't need a fucking prequel, because if you get a prequel of Azula, you ruin Azula. A prequel means, oh, here she comes. She's going to do the... No, the best part about Azula's moves was that they were always shrouded in mystery. She always came when you least expected it. She always was this thing that threw a monkey wrench in everything. She always was this thing that made you go, oh, shit, Azula. It's just like when in book 2, when she had, like, basically Ty Lee, Mai and Ty Lee, they had, like, ambushed the Kyoshi warriors and beat them up and stole their outfits. And then they dressed up as the Kyoshi warriors and went to go do the coup with Ba Sing Se. And once they got to Ba Sing Se, she's like, we are the Kyoshi warriors. But you can see that clearly through that outfit, it's Azula's eyes. And you can hear the boom, doo-doo-doom, doom, doo-doo-doom, doom, doo-doo-doom, doom, doo-doo-doom music. That's Azula's theme song. But the reason it works so well is because it's like, oh shit, her ass made it into Ba Sing Se. She was trying to get into Ba Sing Se at first, but couldn't because she failed because Aang stopped her by stopping the drill from piercing into the fucking thing. Then she took control of the Dai Li. Thank you, Navy. She took control of the Dai Li. She fatally wounded Aang. She was almost crowned Fire Lord. Also, her blue flames were unique and to her and no one else. Incredible. But all of that happened as a mystery. If you give her a prequel, we don't need a prequel. We don't need build-up for that. Azula is shrouded in mystery. That's the point. The less you know about her, the better. The reason is because it makes her appearances mean something. It's just like when Aang and the others were trying to get away from her because she was too strong to handle, so they had to retreat. But they had been losing like a day of sleep since then, so everybody was all sleepy and their eyes were baggy and they were like roughing it. And then they could hear, like, they look off into the distance and they see that Azula and the others are riding on these like little lizard, like ostrich thingies. And they're like, oh shit! We don't need a prequel to that. I don't want to know that the bullet is showing up. Let the bullet hit. We're supposed to experience those things. With Zuko, we know he's there. Azula, though, never see her coming. Even when Azula failed, she found ways to make it look good. You can't do a prequel because then that means you got to make her at her worst. I don't want Azula early. We need her when she shows up. She's the danger of the next season. Oh my God. I think that's something interesting in your approach. You're certainly not acting like the rest of the season doesn't exist and probably pulling them from where you can. But the thing about Avatar is it's expanded so much beyond its show. There are books, there are graphic novels. Yeah, I'm curious if you guys are pulling things from those. Yeah, very much. I mean, we above all are fans of the franchise. Shit, I can hardly tell at this point. And so we're very aware of everything from comic books to graphic novels and novelizations. And we went through all of that stuff. There's some really rich material we drew in from here and there. And I think some fans will be excited. Damn, even they doubting themselves at this point. Some fans will be very excited to see that. Other fans, it'll be a new for them because they haven't gone through that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if we should talk about some spoilers. Oh, now y'all want to chill out? Y'all basically spoiled fucking Azula in season fucking 1. You want to sit and go, oh, we should chill out. We need to know more about the background for Zuko and why he's doing what he's doing and to see that the content of his family dynamic. That's the quote from earlier. That's fair, but obviously you guys read them. You're aware of them. It's almost like they're calling them out. We need to know more about Zuko and his family dynamic. Read the fucking graphic novels and the comics then, you idiots. Yeah, but it all goes down to being able to add a little bit more dimension to some of the elements of the story and being able to weave together new threads. And it was all a process of making it more like a serialized drama rather than an adventure of the week that the original show was. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose my fucking mind. I'm going to lose my fucking mind. Y'all see this bullshit? Let me read the comment from earlier, Navy. If anything, I want less Ozai. He's the final boss. Many name drop him and have few flashbacks but nothing overt. I hate reading this because I'm getting like a headache. I'm getting like a realistic headache from this. I wanted to ask specifically about that. You're describing it as a serialized drama, which is a big change in addition to it being a live action. I believe it's an 8-hour... What? I believe it's 8-hour long episodes versus 20-minute long episodes. Was that change in the formula a challenge to adapt? What? I believe it's 8-hour long episodes. Oh, like 8 episodes that are 1 hour long. Okay, 8 1-hour long episodes. So they're doing the exact same thing Yu Yu Hakusho did. And debatably One Piece is done. They're making each episode 8 hours long. They're making each episode, Jesus Christ. They're making each episode 1 hour long, and there's only 8 episodes in the season. We gotta go to another source first before let's see. Let's see something. All right, chat. Check this out. Each episode is 20 minutes long, right? So, book 1 is 20 episodes long. 20 episodes, each about 20 minutes long, give or take commercials, right? They're about 20 episodes long, give or take. So, let's see, 20 times 20, that would be 400, right? 400 divided by 60. 400 divided by 60. That means 6.6. So 7 hours. It's about 7 hours. It's 7 hours. So book 1 was 7 hours long. All of book 1. The entire book 1, 7 hours long. How would you handle the new Avatar if you were in creative control? I wouldn't change a goddamn thing. If I absolutely had to make a live action, I would take everything from the cartoon and just copy and paste. I wouldn't change shit. I don't give a damn. And I would also let the actors know what the fuck they're doing. I would also use the music from the original show. It would literally just be a copy. I wouldn't change shit. I don't give a damn what the limitations are. I would do the exact same thing. I would copy and fucking paste. It would literally just be a live action version of it. The only thing I would probably add is maybe a few more comic things. But looking at the math here, we just saw that book 1 is about almost 7 hours long. Book 1 is almost 7 hours. Book 1 is basically 7 hours long, right? 7 hours, right? We have 7 hours of content. Here, each episode is 1 hour long and there's 8 episodes. So realistically, the Netflix series has more time to work with, yet they're choosing to cram it. They're choosing to take out episodes and cram in episodes that aren't necessary. Like Azula being in book 1 for no fucking reason. Like, there's no reason for that. So they're essentially, it's weird. They're ripping it apart and adding, and I don't think it's going to be a whole hour long. I think the credits themselves are probably going to wind up taking like a chunk of time too. So all in all, I would say the episodes, each of the episodes, if you include the opening and the credits, they'll probably be about 50 minutes long. It'd be 50 minutes long. So, and we take that into 8s. So it'd be about the exact same time. It'd be almost about 7 hours, give or take. It'd be about 7 hours. So the same length as actual season 1. You can just watch season 1 if you wanted to, basically. Because they took most of the charm out. So for the hour, you're going to be watching. So that means they're adding in shit that is not necessary. And we got to watch it for some reason. After this, I want to just watch the animated series at this point. Like, part of me just wants to watch the animated series at this point. Because I'm getting angry. I'm getting angry for no reason, when realistically, I could just watch the animated series. Let's go back to the article. Yeah, it was very much challenging to adapt, especially the first season, because the first season of animated show has a lot of standalone episodes. Oh, really? It's almost like they were building the fucking world! The second and third seasons become more serialized, but in that first season of the animated show, it is very much adventures of the week. So why are they so ashamed of this? First of all, let me break it down. Avatar The Last Airbender only has 20 episodes in book 1. There's only 20. It's not even that bad. It's just 20. They're acting like, oh, it's all filler. Like, bro, the first episode is important. The second episode is important. The Southern Air Temple is important because Aang figures out his fucking family's dead. The Kyoshi Warriors are important. The King of Omashu, he's a staple character, so that's important. Imprisoned is important. The Winter Solstice Part 1, the Spirit World, that one's important. Part 2 is important. The Waterbending Scroll is important because it's how Katara and Aang learn the basics of waterbending. They meet Jet in episode 10. The Great Divide is like the only episode you can axe out and people won't care as much. The Great Divide's kind of ass. That's like that. Like universally, most people don't like that episode. That episode kind of sucks. The Storm is literally just character development and backstory. The Blue Spirit is important because it's Zuko's alter ego. It's the character needed in order to get Aang away from Zhao, because Zhao is taking on the mission of kidnapping Aang because Zuko hasn't done it yet. The Fortune Teller one, you can more or less get rid of that one. That one's just Aang trying to impress Katara more or less. There's some important stuff in there, but yeah, you can. Bato of the Water Tribe, that one's kind of important. The Deserter, actually no, Imprisoned is important. It's when they meet up with it's when they meet up with Katara meets up with the one guy that she likes. Not Jet, but the other guy. Which is weird, the live action movie actually took that plot. Yeah, the movie even did that plot. The Deserter's important. The Northern Air Temple's kind of not important, but it is important because they wind up using those characters later in book 3. And then obviously Waterbending Master and The Siege Part 1 and 2 are important. Those are season finales. So yeah, only a small handful of episodes, an incredibly small handful of episodes are like filler-y, but it's not even that bad. Out of 20 episodes, I'd say about 3 of them are adventure-based episodes. The rest are character development episodes. So it's like, why are they treating it like it's nothing but filler? Whatever. So a big part of the process in the writer's room was kind of pulling apart all those storylines and seeing how the narrative threads lay, and then weaving them together in a much more serialized drama. I can't deal with this. I can't. It's almost like they're insulting the show every sentence I read. It's almost like they're throwing, there is no filler in books. Jesus Christ. Maybe I'm gonna have to steal that one. There's no filler in Ba Sing Se. It feels like it could be either or. It could be a joke or it could be serious. There is no filler in Ba Sing Se. Oh, that's wild. There is no filler in Ba Sing Se. When there's literally like an episode where Momo runs around doing bullshit. Oh, God. Let's go back. What was it? They wanted to make a more serialized drama. Fuck you. Fuck you. But it was an interesting process because of what you had to do. What you and Up finding is that there were a lot of thematic parallels. So when you take an episode, editors note, we removed some of this for potential spoilers. Oh, fuck you. And then you take an episode from which removed for spoilers is in, oh, so I barely get any of this. You realize both of these are separate episodes in an animated series. And they take place in different environments, but they're both about the same kind of character. And so those kind of match up thematically. So we put 2 of them together in the same storyline. So that was the process of creating a serialized version of what we essentially an Adventure of the Week show. I hate it. I hate it. Even looking at the pictures, these characters look so depressed. You described it as Adventure of the Week, but one thing I also remember from when I visited the set is you describing it as a travel show. Does that still guide your approach? Jabber can talk about this part better than anyone because it's a matter of depicting all of the environments of the show, and it's heavy on preference of the VFX, the voice effects, or voice. Yeah, I mean certainly. JR's talking now. Jabber. It certainly is an absolute travel show. It's one of the big challenges of something like this is that you're never in the same place twice. It's almost like they had an Adventure of the fucking Week! which we're lucky to be doing it with. Are you sure? You don't sound lucky. You sound like you were forced to do this shit. To be doing it with someone like Netflix who understands what it takes in order to accomplish this. It takes large, extensive set builds. It takes extremely heavy lifting on visual effects side. A lot has to go in to do a real travel show. We don't go and revisit the same location over and over. It's difficult. Oh, it's almost like you have to travel to a new place every day, like an adventure of the week. I'll say that logically speaking, it's also another reason why we decided to do a little more of the Fire Nation story in the first episode, because it gave us a kind of regular set and environment that we could go back and do. Okay, I feel like we're finally reaching the truth. Okay, now this is starting to sound honest. The reason that y'all did that unnecessary ass backstory for Azula and Ozai is because you wanted a set. You wanted an immediate set. And it's easier to do that when you have a base. You wanted to keep going back because you wanted a base. And traveling costs money. So you don't want to move from place to place. You want one set piece so you can have a base. Just fucking say that, man. Don't run around going, we wanted to give more character development to the characters and make Zuko more dimensional. Fuck you! You didn't want to make Zuko more dimensional. You wanted a set place so that you can develop these characters and get the benefit of developing characters that we didn't need fucking development for, but still have the benefit of having one spot to do all the filming. Fuck you! Say that! Don't run around this bullshit and insult the animated series for it. Oh my god. Because our heroes are traveling from location to location every episode, but we can always go back to the Fire Nation throne room for a scene or two in each episode. Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! And it gave us a little more stability in storytelling. So that was another reason for bringing them into the 4 this season. Yeah, I feel like that was the main reason. I feel like that was the main reason. Now that we're talking about VFX, I feel like one of the big curiosities is how bending is going to look. Was there a certain style of bending that was particularly hard to translate? We're already this deep in. We're just going to keep going in. I think water is the most complex to translate in the live action medium because we have all a pretty good understanding of water physics and how it behaves. And when you're trying to do things that are against the laws of physics, but that feel realistic, it's a real challenge. Really? It's almost like it should have been fucking animated. Oh, wait! We expected to see it travel or track through a scene. So that was the thing that was a real challenge. It's like, okay, when someone does get hit with water, how long does that water have to exist before the audience will accept that it's no longer there? It's almost like it should have been animated. Because we're just literally running up the money on something that isn't really telling any more of a story. So you know how Katara and the others did it when they waterbend? They would lift the water and then whip people with it. Or they would trap somebody in it in a bubble. Or they would freeze it instantly and it would act like a knife or a dagger or a sword or impale something. Or you could use it in order to make an ice wall and block attacks. And then it would go back down as water and dissolve into the soil or something. You know how they were able to do all of that? But you can't because oh woe is me, we don't want to spend all this money. Probably because animating it and drawing it would have been a lot easier than this bullshit. When you're trying to do things that are against the laws of physics but it feels realistic, it's a real challenge. I think air is also challenging because you can't see air. And in the cartoon, you can draw little squiggly lines. Oh, it's because they fucking animated it! To show the air bending. And it was a real... And in the real world, it's about seeing the effects of the air on other things. Whether it's dust or leaves or anything. So, even going into the project, I remember that it was a big issue. It's almost like I should have left this the fuck alone. It's almost like I should have just not touched it. I'm just saying, I'm crazy, right? Yeah, so we were always leaning on the environment. If we were in a place that's wet, the air bending picks up some of the water, so you get a little bit of a special specularity on the water. Or if it's a fog environment, pulling that fog into the air bending. But yeah, air bending in the number two of the most challenging effects. Oddly enough, I think fire is the easiest, right? I'm not even gonna. None of them are easy. But yeah, I mean fire, because we have seen things like flamethrowers. You can say, this is kind of like a flamethrower or a fireball. This is kind of like a fireball. You have some real world references you can pull from, whereas other effects you don't. And then plus it interacts with light. A fire, we know what fire does when it's close to something. That gives you something that can base it on reality. It makes it go, okay, that feels real, even though it's all made up. So you got the basics, a fireball and a flamethrower. What about like when characters make fire tornadoes, or when Zuko makes the fire come out of his nostrils like an angry bull or something? Or what about when they do an Agni fucking Kai? What are you gonna do then, huh? When Zuko does that step and the fire does that jet stream towards the opponent. Or when Zhao, because Zhao is more like sturdier, because he's more like a soldier, his fire is straighter. It's like boom, 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 boom. And it comes out of his fist faster. How you going to do those? There's a digital aspect of bending, but there's also some actual stunt work aspect of it. In that last trailer, we were doing a lot of stunts at the cast. What kind of training did they have to do for the show? We are incredibly fortunate that both Dallas, Lee who plays Zuko, and Lane Quinsley who plays Sokka are martial artists. They were even before the show. Ian is a world champion at weapons, and Dallas has been studying martial arts since he was a kid. You can actually find videos on YouTube of him as a little kid performing. It's amazing. So it was a huge advantage for us. That said, we put all the actors through 6 weeks of boot camp before production. Only 6 weeks, huh? And they went through very intensive martial arts training, all of them. They had to learn all different styles of bending. Each bending discipline is based on a different martial arts style. And so they had to learn their own styles as well as get familiar with other ones. Like I said, it was a little easier for Ian and Dylan because they had already skilled at that. But they had to get used to the style that they didn't know. And so that was a big part of their training. All guest stars that came on too were doing bending. They also went through their own versions of training. Utkarsh Ambedkar playing King Boomy. He went through some very intense training to do the earthbending sequence. Jabber directed that episode. He was talking about how Utkarsh insisted on doing all the stunts, all the sequence in the entire fight scene. And he kept asking for more takes. We actually shot that over a weekend, I think. He was great about it, but one of the things that he really enjoyed about the production is everyone was so into it. They just wanted to do it. It was a lot of fun being able to do it. Well, I'm glad they had fun. And I want to go back to what I was saying about that too. I always said this. What about using bending in silly nonsense, non-combat situations like Aang doing the air ball? Oh yeah, Aang's famous air scooter. How are they they're not even gonna bother animating that. They're probably just gonna have him glide everywhere with the glider. It's a lot easier, probably. Or when Aang does the little when he does this and he makes a tiny little air ball and it goes how are they gonna do that? Well, going back to this, I want to talk about this real quickly. I'm going to hammer this home like I always do. The cast is never at fault. I congratulate the fact that they have 2 martial artists on the crew. Funny enough, Zuko and Sokka, that's actually pretty fucking hilarious. I'm actually glad that they're passionate enough to take the time to learn martial arts. That's like one good thing. And again, never the fault of the actors. But you already saw where most of my vitriol was towards. The writing. They're going to sap all the funny moments and make this an adult drama. Yeah, that's what they're aiming for, Navy. They're aiming for a serialized drama. And like I said, I'm so glad the cast was having fun with this. Hell, the actor of Aang learning how to do martial arts is very akin to Aang himself learning how to do all the bendings. So you can definitely see the joy that something like that would definitely have. And I congratulate that. I love that type of stuff. Honestly, I feel like this passion could have been used in a whole different original project and it could have been taught with much more love and care. But y'all chose to use a story that already exists and already has a template, and you're gonna risk it for, oh, we had a little bit of fun learning. It's like, that's great for the actors, but it's terrible for the brevity of the show, for the integrity of the show. Because now you're gonna sit up there and be like, oh, we're gonna copy everything, but it's just so much work. Like, that's disingenuous to the writers. Oh, the writers made too many adventures of the day. Like, fuck you. Those writers worked hard in building that world. Even when we talk about filler in most senses, I know that over the years, and I want to clarify something, just as a growing moment, even for myself. I know that over the years, through like when I reviewed the Pokemon XY series, or any of the other series, or all the histories that you guys have seen me would talk about video games and anime and all of these things, I know full well that filler, as time has passed, has been viewed as a negative thing rather than a positive thing. And we've had our filler discussion on the TG3 Roundtable before, but I want to hammer this down again. Filler builds a world. Whether it's good or bad, it gives us a platform to watch things on. It gives us something to look at and go, this was a moment in time. This is a moment that I can see on screen that the characters have experienced. Whether it's canon or not doesn't fucking matter. It is something that we see, that work was done. And this is from the main source material. Whether you want to view it as good filler or bad filler, those adventures, even the Great Divide, for as bad as that episode was, and a lot of people didn't like the Great Divide, it is a moment in time within Avatar: The Last Airbender's history. It is something that we know of. So to sit up there and completely insult the animated series by going, it had so many adventure of the weeks. Okay. If you have this much vitriol against the original material, why go through the effort of copying the original material? If this is the criticism, oh, we don't feel like Azula and Ozai got enough character development. Make your own series. Make your own series and make a female character and a dictative overlord and give them as much character development as you fucking want. Don't take an already established character and be like, I think this'll be better. Who are you to say that? Who are you to say that? At what point do you believe you have the right to sit up there and go, yep, this wasn't good enough, better fucking change it? And I am fully aware that if people go, if you're so mad about this, then just don't watch it. Watch the animated series. Obviously, watching the animated series is the obvious answer. I get that. I'm not against that ideology. It makes perfect sense to prefer something that's better. The problem here is that other people are going to believe that this is the mindset that needs to go. Oh, my Avatar series is better than yours because mine actually focuses on Azula. But then you realize that Azula's character is completely botched up because everything that made her special is blasted in full load in season 1. So by the time we get to season 3, she ain't got shit left. My series feels like Zuko is a lot more dimensionalized. Even though if you look back at the regular series, you know that Zuko has dimensions to his character. oh, my series is in full belief that Aang needs to be more serious because him being silly just doesn't fit the tone of this serious drama. Until you realize that it's that very boyish charm that he had to begin with that made the show likable. Oh, we're gonna take sexism out of our series because we feel like our series is above that. The series knew that it was above that. That's why they made the development for Sokka to get out of it, because he grew as a character. Your Sokka doesn't learn shit. He's a regular character, and he doesn't have any of his comic relief, so you can replace Sokka with anybody. My problem here is that this is the series that people are going to sit up and believe is the true essence of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's the new hot shit in town. It's stepping on and going, we're going to be the Avatar: The Last Airbender series because that baby cartoon was too much, too silly, too ambitious for what the fuck we have to do. We'll copy everything from it, but we're going to make it serious. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that and sit up there and go, oh, well, yeah, definitely. That's going to be the direction that goes. Oh, by the way, the cartoon series, yeah, whatever about it. It's old news. We want to believe in this adaptation. Like, what right do you have to do that? And a lot of people are thinking, well, Tyrone, your generation complained about Teen Titans Go for being too silly, and now you're flipping your argument. Let's look at context here. Teen Titans, when it was introduced, had a mix of serious and silly moments, but overall was more serious. Teen Titans Go went the completely other direction. This is going to the extreme other direction. This is very akin to making Teen Titans, which was a series that progressively got more mature as time passed and made us get used to those great and funny moments that were in between, and then cranking that stupidness up to 11 and then going, yeah, that's Teen Titans. And then we're going to shove it all down the line. This went the other direction and went, those silly moments are stupid, and then cranked it all the way to the serious mode and went, that's better. That was the beautiful part about both Teen Titans and Avatar: The Last Airbender. They knew how to balance both. And they didn't have to wrestle with, oh, how should we make these characters act? Again, no fault to the actors. I wish these actors would find projects that are better for them to do. I wish these actors found projects that they could express their full talents on and use to their full advantages on. This, however, forces them to wind up acting a certain way and then keep it consistent for the sake of complexity. Whereas the other series was animated. There were no actors to hire except for voice actors. It's animated. So all of that time that you spent going, this character should do this, was decided by the writers and the writers alone. But that's the reason that it was so cherished, was because it was the ending result of what these writers got together about a passionate project. Aang woke up from an iceberg and was young as hell when he was pre-freeze. As his growing up is actually important, his growth as a character and the Avatar. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and round this out because I'm just making myself too angry. I'm not even going to bother reading the rest of it. I think this pretty much concludes most of it. I'm not even going to. Let's see. Well, there was one that was kind of interesting. I'll read it real quickly. Bending the rules. And going back to those narrative liberties, was there anything in particular where you were like, no, this is set in stone. This can't change? There's a lot of things that, like that, starting with characters. Okay, you changed Aang's character. What are you talking about? I mean, the characters, we had to dimensionalize them, but there are certain core. I would say there is a core DNA to the characters that you don't want to mess with, even though you already fucking did that. Whether it's Aang, like I said, like his childhood goofiness and his sense of humor, the burden of his responsibilities, Sokka and his humor and his pragmatic look on life, Katara's warmth and her optimism, those things had to carry through into our version, even though they fucking don't. So you start with the characters and you say, what was the essence of the character that got a big change? And what's the room where we can expand a little more? The cartoon, for as great as it was 15 years ago. And so things have changed. What are you talking about? There's also certain roles that I think Katara did in the cartoon that we didn't necessarily also do here. I mean, I don't really want to get a lot into that, but some gender issues that didn't quite translate. What? My friend just watched this for the first time and he's like, Sokka's an asshole. I was like, yeah, no, he kind of is. Yeah, especially in the first. I'm not even going to keep reading this. I'm done. I'll be here for days if I keep reading this. I think they completely missed the point of this. Like, gender issues? What, the fact that Katara was caring? She was like a mother? She had motherly traits? This is another thing, and I'm not going to receive this well, but I don't give a fuck at this point. I'm so mad. There is not... When you're writing a character, and you have that character act realistic, even if there are some times that change, there's nothing wrong with the character embracing those traits if those traits are good fucking traits. I can already tell exactly what they're talking about with Katara. Katara became like a nagging mother to a lot of the characters. Aang, make sure you don't do this. Aang, let's focus on being more this. Aang, do this. Sokka, let's do this. Sokka, stop being this. She was naggy and bossy, which the show fucking tackles, by the way. And she realizes her fault and backs up a little bit. But she still becomes nurturing. She still becomes protective. She still becomes strong for it. Yes, it's a gender role, motherly. That is a gender role because it's got the word motherly in it, which is equated to a woman a lot. She's like a protective mother bird. But there's nothing wrong with the gender role if it's helping elevate the fucking character. That's like saying you shouldn't be a man. You shouldn't act like a man because men protect people who need help. Then I guess I'll stop being a man then. Fuck you, show! You're basically saying you're wrong for being you. If it's within their instincts to do it and it's within their character, then obviously they have to act like their character. It doesn't matter that times change. Times can change, but the core of your being can still stay the same. That doesn't mean obliterate an entire character because you think this will be offensive. Fuck you! That's stupid! Being motherly is a good part of Katara. It's what makes her endearing. It's what makes her a character that people like because she cared about people. There's nothing wrong with that. In book 2, they tackle this very issue where Toph and Katara wind up having a huge fight because Toph is careless and doesn't give a fuck, and she's sometimes lazy and is very not caring of her self-appearance, but Katara is more girly and ladylike. The two are opposites. One's a tomboy, one is a girly girl, but when they get together and talk to each other, they argue about this. And once they finally argue about this, they realize, wait a second. You're right, I can't come off as a little bossy, but it's only because I care. And she's like, you're right, I am a little too laid back, but it's because I want us to have fun sometimes. And the two come together and gain each other's traits, but still use the good part of their traits to make them stronger. Stop doing that. Stop demonizing the characters for being them. And then going, that's a gender role. Fuck you. I'm ending it. I can't afford the aneurysm. I can't afford it. It's too strong. The aneurysm's gonna make me too angry. I'm ending it now. We're stopping it now. We're gonna go ahead and raid Terrell. I'm sure I think he's doing Grandia. The OG is the complete package. We're gonna go ahead and raid Terrell. He's probably almost done with the stream by this point. Yeah, he's probably almost done with this stream by this point. Guys, if you're watching this, watch the animated series, please. I'm about to watch the animated series after this. That's all this has inspired me to do. With that being said, Sunday, we're going to go ahead and do Mario Kart. So make sure you guys stick around for that. It's going to be in the Discord. So if you haven't already, join the Discord. We're going to have a huge Mario Kart party. So that being said, I'll see y'all then, everybody. Tyrone TG3 out.